Hello everyone, this is a question and this is going to be my reading log for the month of February. I normally do my intros over a stack of the books I read in the month, but I accidentally deleted my first intro and had already put in all the books back, so I don't feel like pulling out 40 to 50 volumes just to take another video over the top of them. So that's why you're getting this shot of my collection. And so this is my first month doing things a little differently with the books I chose. I'm doing kind of like a TBR jar, but instead a random number generator with all of the series that I have that are completed. So that picked out, the two main series that it picked out for me to read in February were Beastars. So I read through all 22 volumes of that along with Beast Complex Volume 1. And then the other big series that it had me read was Sweet Blue Flowers. Read through all of that this month. So those are the two main books I read, and then I read a lot of other volume ones and one-shots. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Okay, so first off, I'm going to start with the two books that I gave 2 stars to on Goodreads. These are the two that I didn't care for the most and the ones that I will be unhauling. So first off, we have Single Match. This is by Oji Suzuki. This is a Gekiga book by Drawn and Quarterly. And this was by far my least favorite of any of these Gekiga books that I've read. This is a short story collection, but all of the short stories are very surrealist. There's not a lot of stuff for me to grab onto. So even though I normally really enjoy short story collections, in this one I didn't have any that I connected to, any that I really enjoyed. So this one was a pass for me. Okay, and the next 2-star book that we have is Chojin X. This is by the same creator of Tokyo Ghoul. This one I had not pre-ordered. I just randomly grabbed it when I was in Barnes & Noble. I'd heard lots of people hype up this book, I think mainly based on how much people like Tokyo Ghoul. I've not read Tokyo Ghoul yet, but I have started collecting it, or I have completed my collecting of it, and I was planning on reading it sometime soon. But after reading this first volume, I'm definitely a lot more scared about how I'm going to feel about that, because this was kind of everything that doesn't interest me in manga, just generic action, kind of nonsensical story, kind of generic artwork. That's pretty much everything that this book was. And so hopefully Tokyo Ghoul ends up not being that, but at least this first volume here, I had to force myself to finish it. I was pretty bored going through it, so I definitely won't be continuing with this series. Next up, I'm going to go through the stuff that I gave 3 stars to on Goodreads. So most of these are volume 1s or one-shots. First off, we have Pez. I finally got around to reading this. This is a very short one-shot by Denpa. When I had pre-ordered this a long time ago, I did not know it was going to be so small. It's $24.95 for this really tiny, it's only 70 pages long. It is in full color, but that's still a crazy price for the size. And the artwork is really nice in this. That's definitely the high point of this, the art. The story, it's basically just an episodic, a bunch of little tiny stories in here following this duo as they go around in this post-apocalyptic world. I found it, it was okay. There's one of the stories kind of tells a little backstory of them. One of them shows them as they're learning how to make pizza. So there's definitely little tiny things that, but the stories, because it's only 70 pages long, everything was so short that there was nothing really to connect to or to really get that invested in. So I was pretty unimpressed with this, other than, like I said, the artwork. So definitely not recommended for that price. If you find this for cheap, then grab it. Or if you're a huge fan of this creator, then you should grab it. But at least for me, it didn't really do too much for me. Next, we've got some romance series. We've got Honey Lemon Soda Volume 1. This one, another heavily hyped series. At least in this first volume, pretty standard generic romance, high school romance series. Nothing to get too excited about. We have a pretty lame main female character, unfortunately, and then kind of your standard cool kid with blonde hair type character from the male lead. So at least after this first volume, I wasn't very impressed. It's kind of just your standard story, but I will give it another couple volumes just based on the hype and see if it improves. Next up, we have My Secret Affection Volume 1. Like Honey Lemon Soda, this also at its core is just kind of a generic, kind of standard romance story about the main character, female, has a crush on her best friend and doesn't know how to tell him, keeps it a secret. But at least in this story, there is a big hook to it. So if you know anything about the story, the big hook is that meteors hit the earth and it eliminated heterosexuality. So everybody only has homosexual feelings. So there's only same-sex relationships. And this girl is randomly starting to have heterosexual feelings for her best friend. So that's kind of the big hook of this one. But like I mentioned, at its core, it's just a standard girl has a crush on a guy on her best friend who she doesn't know how to tell type story. So, you know, at the core it's that, but at least this one has a hook. I'm interested enough in what's going on with the world to read more volumes and see how it goes. But at least in this first volume, just okay, nothing really amazing. Next up, we have My Sister the Cat Volume 1. This is a new series, and this is about a human teenager whose parents pass away, and he gets adopted by his mom's friend, who is like a humanoid cat, and he goes and lives with their cat family. So we got a husband, a wife, and a little girl cat, and he is now the girl cat's big brother. That's where My Sister the Cat comes into play, and his sister is a huge fan of the boy, so she constantly wants to hang out with him, wants him to play with her, that type of stuff. So this story just kind of goes about him trying to deal with going to school. He's trying to get into university, and he also has to spend, him also wanting to spend a lot of time with his sister, and she's missing him constantly. So just kind of hijinks of a human teenager living in a cat family. Like I mentioned with a lot of these 3-star books, nothing blowing you away. I really like cats, so that's kind of what connected me with this one. But otherwise, nothing must read in this volume either. Okay, so next up we have one of the weirdest books I've read this month, and that is Oshinoco Volume 1. So to get too much into why I only gave this book 3 stars, I would have to kind of go into spoiler territory, and I'm not going to do that because this is a new series and there's a lot of weirdness that goes on in it. So I'm just going to kind of do nothing really more than the synopsis that's out there for this series. And that is that this series is about an idol who, being an idol, she ends up getting pregnant and she has to hide that from the public. And so this is kind of dealing with her interactions with her manager and then her OBGYN, they're the only people that know that she's pregnant, and lots of other crazy stuff happens after that. Like I said, I don't really want to go too much into the things I didn't like about this book. I'd have to go into more of the story points, and I don't want to spoil anything. But at least by the end of this book, the main reason why I'm kind of worried and I only give it 3 stars was that the focus of the book going forward seems to be a character that I really didn't care about. That was the least interesting character in this whole volume. So that kind of worries me. So hopefully we get some more character development, something that kind of makes that character more interesting happens in the follow-up volumes. But at least in this volume 1, I'm intrigued enough. It's weird enough that I'm looking forward to reading more of it. Okay, so now we're moving on to the books that I gave, all the new volume 1s and one-shots that I gave 4 stars to on Goodreads. So starting off, we have Under Ninja Volume 1. Didn't know too much about this book other than it is by the same creator who did I Am a Hero, series that I have a few volumes of, but I have not started reading. And this one was really interesting. I'm really interested in the story. The artwork here reminded me a lot of Ajin Demi-Human, very similar kind of detailed backgrounds. And this series follows, in this world, there's a bunch of ninjas. It says there's almost 200,000 in the world that they're basically undercover agents. And so our main character in this is a very low level one of these under ninjas, and he gets involved, ends up getting a very big assignment. And so this first volume is just kind of exploring, introducing us to the world and how these ninjas work and things of that nature, and kind of showing this main character. But really interested in where this is going to go. Of course, with it being a Denpa release, we'll probably only get like another volume of this year. But at least in this first volume, it had me hooked, very interested in where it's going to go. Next up, we have a book that I was heavily anticipating. This is Shonen Note BoySoprano Volume 1. This is by the same creator of Our Dreams at Dusk, a series that I really enjoyed. And all I knew was that this was another series by that creator. When I got about 2 chapters into this, I was like, the artwork kind of doesn't look quite as good as it did in Our Dreams at Dusk. And then after reading the back page, this Volume 1 actually came out 12 years ago in Japan. So this is actually a quite older series than Our Dreams at Dusk, so that's the reason for that. The artwork is still very good, but it just wasn't as polished as I saw as the Our Dreams at Dusk artwork. So definitely good to know going into it that this is a lot older series than that one. But otherwise, really great first volume, sets up the group of characters really well. Our main character here is a BoySoprano who loves music so much that he bursts into tears when he hears things that he finds beautiful. And so it kind of hints in this whole series, like how is he going to react when he no longer can sing soprano, when his voice changes. And so there's a lot of that kind of introducing the kids in the choir that he joins and how they kind of deal with him with his very hyper emotional behavior that he has. So looking forward to another volume of this, seeing where it goes, but first volume, really good start. Next up, we have a short story collection. We have Tatsuki Fujimoto, Before Chainsaw Man 17 to 21. If you've watched any of my past reading logs, you know that I did not really care for Chainsaw Man, and I also wasn't the biggest fan of his one-shot Look Back, so I didn't really know how I was going to feel about this one, and this one I really enjoyed. This was a really fun group of stories. I really like the artwork. This is definitely I'm definitely really looking forward to the follow-up one of these. I know there's another one of these because I just found it really funny. It made me laugh out loud multiple times. I found all 4 of the short stories really enjoyable. Just a really great time. Really great short story collection. Can't recommend this one enough. Next up, we have The Night Blooms Behind Castle Walls Volume 1. This is a new kind of medieval slice of life, I would say, series. It follows this young girl who is basically working as a squire. She's trying to become a knight, and so she's just kind of doing mundane castle work as she's working up to becoming a knight. So you would think fairly boring story, but the cast of characters is pretty interesting. It mentions, it kind of shows that she's hiding the fact that she is a girl from all these other people in the castle, so no one else knows that she is a girl. But it doesn't really say anywhere in here like that girls aren't allowed to be knights. So at least the world, it's kind of interesting to kind of see where that is going to go. But at least in this first volume, I like the main character, like the world, very interested. I like slice of life stories, and this one was a very fun and interesting first volume. Okay, next up we have the first isekai I've ever read, and that is So What's Wrong with Getting Reborn as a Goblin Volume 1. This one was highly recommended by Prof Otaku as a good isekai book to get into, and I agree. This one was very fun, very cute, very easy to get into. So we follow our main character as an office worker who likes to do good deeds. He jumped in front of a moving vehicle and saves a child's life, and unfortunately dies, and he gets reborn in this goblin world. And in this goblin world, every goblin is born with a skill, and his skill is that he can live to be 80 years old, whereas all the other goblins in this world only live for 7 days. So he basically uses his skills as a human, or his knowledge as a human, and the fact that he can live for 80 years, uses it to kind of bring the goblins up in the rank of the society that they're in there. So very, very fun, very interested to see where this goes. The goblins are cute. I like kind of the interactions between the goblins and humans in this world. Just really looking forward to where this is going. Definitely opened my eyes. I'll definitely won't write off isekai as a genre so quickly after reading this book. Okay, and the last of the 4-star ones, we have Rainbow Days Volume 1. This is another older book that's just now getting released in English. The first volume of this came out about 12 years ago, so we're just now getting in English. And this one, less of a romance series, more of just a high school comedy. We have 4 friends. It does deal a lot with their relationships. So 3 of them are in relationships, 1 of them is not. And so it kind of, each one of them has vastly different personalities. And so we kind of get a lot of comedy as they interact and try to help the boy that doesn't have a girlfriend kind of figure out how he's going to get a girlfriend. but then you end up finding out they're all not that good romantically either. So just a really fun first volume. I thought it was cute, nice story, looking forward to where it goes. That's Rainbow Days Volume 1. Okay, the best of the new releases that I read this month was Run Away With Me Girl. This is a new Yuri series. You can tell really great artwork on the cover here. Really love this art. Really nice design and colors. And the interior artwork is very nice too. Really distinctive female faces. I really like the way the females in this book are drawn. And so it follows our two main characters here, two girls in high school who are girlfriends, and once they're about to graduate, the girl on the right randomly breaks up with the girl on the left and says, now that we're going to be adults, we need to find boyfriends and be serious with our lives, which obviously devastates the girl on the left. So that's the start of the story, and then it continues 10 years later where they run into each other. The girl on the right is now engaged, and the girl on the left has never stopped having feelings for the girl on the right. So very interesting story, very good characters, great artwork, just a great combination of stuff that makes me interested. So I will definitely be reading more of this, one of the best new Yuri series that I've read in a while. Okay, so now we're on to the two big series that I read this month. So first off, we have Sweet Blue Flowers. I read through all 4 omnibuses of this. These are kind of giant 2-in-1s from Viz. And like it says here, this is a classic Yuri series by the author of Wandering Sun. So if you've watched any of my previous reading logs, I read through all of Wandering Sun sometime last year, and I had kind of mixed feelings about it. I really wanted to like it. I did enjoy it by the end, but the author's writing style was really hard to follow, and unfortunately I had those same issues with the writing style in this series. This is a very straightforward story. We have our main two girls here who were childhood friends who hadn't seen each other for a while and ended up going to the same high school. And so it's basically them where one of them has romantic feelings for the other and the other one kind of more just has regular friend feelings. So as you can tell, very standard kind of romance Yuri plot, but unfortunately the way the writer writes, the plotting is very hard to follow. I was constantly, even 3 volumes in, having to like go back pages, seeing if I had missed stuff. I don't know what it is about her. It just kind of the way the plot goes, like you'll just randomly, there'll be 2 characters will be interacting with each other. It'll just randomly end and then it'll be like 4 days later, but it doesn't tell you days have passed, so you don't know when this is taking place, why the previous conversation just stopped. There's a lot of just randomness to where it's going from page to page. And like I said, just really hard to follow. I don't really understand why, same thing with Wandering Sun, why the plot is so hard to, why everything has to be so erratic. It's just, I don't know, just something about the way the creator writes is very confusing to me for what should be a straightforward story. It's not like this is a hard sci-fi or psychological horror where it's, where there's a lot of things to keep track of. There's not a lot to keep track of. There is an issue where there's a lot of same face syndrome. This was a problem in Wandering Sun, where a lot of the characters, the faces looked very similar. It was kind of hard to tell people apart unless they had vastly different hairstyles and things like that, especially with it being black and white. But yeah, otherwise, the basic story was fine. I did enjoy the actual characters in the story, but it was just very hard to kind of keep track of what was going on. And that's really my main problem with this and Wandering Sun. So it kind of scares me because I know I also have picked up Even Though We're Adults, which is her most current running series that I've heard great things about. But yeah, just let me know in the comments if this is a problem that you have had with this creator's books. Having an issue with the way everything is plotted. I'm definitely interested to see if it is just me. At least on Goodreads, when I read through some reviews of this series, there is a lot of people complaining that is overly confusing, kind of hard to follow, and that is my main issue with this series. So while I did kind of enjoy some of the volumes for the most part overall, I'm probably going to get rid of this series just because I don't see myself ever reading it again, and I'm not a big fan of the way this creator writes. So that was Sweet Blue Flowers. Okay, and the main thing I read through this month, I read through all 22 volumes of Beastars along with the short story collection Beast Complex Volume 1. And I didn't really know too much going into this, what this story was about, other than kind of the base synopsis that people had said where It was basically like an R-rated version of Zootopia, the Disney movie, and that is a good kind of basic description, but this is really amazing. I really enjoyed the artwork. It starts off pretty sketchy in these first few volumes, but definitely gets more polished as it goes along. This is actually the creator's very first ongoing series, which was pretty amazing to find out. And I loved pretty much everything about it. The artwork, the cast of characters, the world that it introduces. We have carnivores and herbivores living together. Besides kind of just your standard animal species that you would think of, it also delves into insect life, it delves into sea life, just a lot of different types of stories and characters. And I definitely feel like this could have been twice as long and I would have been just as interested and engaged. And the story goes places that I was not expecting. I was kind of expecting a more straightforward kind of murder mystery and that to be the main crux of the story, but it goes in lots of different places. We have a black market where carnivores are eating meat even though they're not supposed to in this world. Just a lot of craziness, a lot of great characters, very good story, and a fantastic world. I loved everything about it. Will definitely jumping high up on my favorite series list. That is Beastars. And even though this series is completed, there is going to be more of these Beast Complex. We have volume 2 coming out here sometime in March. And this kind of has other little short stories about different types of creatures in the same world. And so in this one, we get different animal species that we didn't see in the actual main series. And I really enjoyed this as well. Really looking forward to getting more of these. It says the creator has mentioned in kind of the back that she does plan on still releasing a lot of these since she's wrapped up with the main series. So looking forward to that. I will read anything by this creator now. I really loved her one-shot Drip Drip, and she has another series coming out that is based on the Santa story in the back of that. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to more Beast Complex. Can't recommend Beastars enough. And that was everything I read in the month of February. Okay, that was everything I read in the month of February. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I do reading logs, manga hauls, all throughout the year. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.